welcome to this episode of Art Safely in Conversation. My name is Diane Collin. This series presents artists, academics, and project leaders who dedicate their time and energy to a better accessibility for people with disabilities in the arts. You can find more of these conversations on our website, artsably.com, which is spelled artsably.com. Today, Art Safely is in conversation with Robin Han, a soprano opera singer from Vancouver, who is also a disability advocate. You can find the resources mentioned by Robin Han during this episode on Art Safely's website in the blog section. thank you very much, Robin, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
And I am with Robin Han, who is in Vancouver right now and who is a soprano, and many, many other things we were going to discover today, including vocal coach and, of course, opera singer and a lot of different things. So I will first ask you to present yourself a little bit, who you are, your background, and also provide a visual description. Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, hi. My name is Robin Hahn. My pronouns are she, they. Um, I'm a white femme person with brown hair and a sort of high femme fashion sense. I'm a disabled opera singer, stage director, vocal coach, and content creator, living and working on the unceded occupied lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples in what is colonially known as Vancouver. I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a genetic connective tissue disorder, and for that I use silver ring splints on my hands for support, and I often walk around with a very sparkly cane.
Oh,
Uh,
it's a
is
very
that
nice
about it?
game.
Thank you so much. Oh, and then of course it just fell all over everything. I very often say about mobility aids, you know, they don't have to be ugly to work. And if I get to be a little bit more, you know, glamorous and get to match my mobility aid to my outfit, then, you know, so much the better.
Do you know about the singer Lachi, who is an American singer? She's blind and she's a Latina singer. She is also a fashion nerd, and she has a cane that is totally glittery with lots of things, and her cane matches her outfit all the time. So have a
I
look.
love I will. Yeah, I have a small collection of walking sticks and I match them to my outfit. They all have different names because of course they do. Because I'm an opera singer. I had to make it extra. Um, this one right here, the one that matches the outfit I'm currently wearing. Her name is Elsa, I think for obvious reasons for those who are watching. It's ice blue with an ombre to white sparkles. Yeah, Elsa couldn't have been anything else. Is her name.
Very nice. So where did you grow up, and what was your musical education?
Sure, I grew up here. I grew up in Vancouver, and I became an opera singer entirely by accident. I have always been a storyteller. That was always true of me from a very young age. I first started as a dancer, which is pretty common actually for people with my condition with hypermobility, because you, of course, certainly when you're a child in particular, you often have very few other symptoms aside from being weirdly flexible. So you end up in dance, right? Um, yeah, so I was a ballet dancer very seriously for starting from a very young age. And then from there, I started doing theater and film. So I became an actor. And I, as a child, was in a few um, TV TV shows and movies. And then I started doing musical theater summer camp, the way that so many little theater kids like I was, would do. And I started taking voice lessons, and I took voice lessons with a wonderful, super supportive opera teacher. And by the time I was about 16, so about 6 years after I had started taking voice lessons, I just sort of looked around and I went, I guess I sing opera now? When did that happen? It just sort of happened to me. It snuck up on me. Um, and the rest is history. I then went to University of Manitoba for about 1 year for opera, and then I started getting a sort of more practical education. I was on stage a lot. I really made it my business to just get on stages and um, develop my craft that way. And yeah, was lucky enough to be able to call it my job.
Very good. And so you're with the company, or you are just an independent opera singer who is going
Uh,
from here to here?
I am an independent opera singer. That said, I am also a co-founder of Opera Mariposa, which is Canada's first disability-led and run opera company. Uh, I was a co-founder. I co-founded it over 10 years ago now. I think it's been about 12 years. Which, while I do I practice my art in lots of different companies rather, all across Canada and in Europe as well. I wouldn't be able to make my art as accessible to me as it is without the support that was built through my work with Mariposa. So I'm really, really grateful to have been a part of that. My life would not be the thing that it is right now without having built such a community of disabled artists through Mariposa.
So when did Mariposa start? 10 years ago?
I think almost 12 now. I think that was it. I think we just noticed the 12th anniversary going by. Yeah.
Who's the other co-founder?
Jacqueline Coe. She and I co-founded it, just taking a drive around one day, and then with the support of Stephanie Coe as well, we built one of the things that I'm the proudest of that we've ever done. It's been a real blessing to be a part of.
You're doing regular shows with that company? How does it work?
Right now, no, because most members of Mariposa are very immunocompromised and are still sheltering from COVID and are not doing any live productions. That said, we've been creating online content since the beginning of the pandemic. The pandemic is ongoing, and we believe that immuno-inclusivity is access. So we're making new systems by which people can make immuno-inclusive operatic art. So there are lots of videos that go up every year, particularly as part of Mariposa's May fundraiser. And we're working on maybe some larger works behind the scenes, slow and steady. But yeah, and in the meantime, I've been lucky enough to be able to make more art elsewhere around as well.
And you are also a voice coach, a voice
Yes,
teacher?
yes. I have a wonderful studio that of artists I love. I teach entirely online. Again, it's an access measure, not just for myself, but for my students as well. Most of my students are young adults or adults, some of whom just want to sing for joy, some of whom really want to be able to do this opera thing very seriously. But the thing that I sort of discovered, again, I didn't really choose this, was that I guess as a person who is so open about my disability in the arts and in the classical music world, I also then attract a lot of disabled students. So about half my studio has some form of disability, and we make learning how to sing more accessible too, because a lot of the barriers to the operatic world or the classical music world, or even just to music more generally, start at the beginning, start at access to education and access to learning technique. I mean, I know of a lot of studios where in the past people have been sort of told, maybe not in so many words, but have been told in the past that, maybe if you're not able to get to every lesson because your health is not allowing you to do that, that then implies that you're somehow not working hard enough, which is of course not true. That's not how it works at all. So yeah, I've been my focus on disability in the arts has really sort of permeated into every single artistic thing that I do, and I became really passionate about creating an accessible place for people to learn healthy technique and to learn to get to know their voices, because the voice is so much a part of our identity for so many people, that embracing the voice and embracing the expression that can be, and and even just embracing the amount of noise a human is capable of creating, um, gives anyone who does it, but disabled people in particular, I find uh, a real sense of identity and of belonging in one's own body. So yeah, I find it really important and cool, and I'm really honored to be a part of that, because it's I get to be a part of people's growth and acceptance every day.
So what's the name of the studio, and are you accepting new students?
It's a very creatively named studio, the Robin Hahn Vocal Studio. Oh, how, deeply creative name. Uh I do constantly accept new students, but I always have a caveat, and that is, I'm a freelance artist, sometimes the schedule gets a little bit wonky, but I do have space, technically, when I'm not in rehearsal.
So you also told me that you spent some time in Germany.
Yes, I did. I was pursuing the sort of more traditional operatic career over in Germany, because I mean, a lot of Canadian operatic artists will know that that's often a place that you sort of go to try to build your career and become a quote unquote serious opera artist. Because, oh, look at those wonderful balloons that light up whenever you make a hand gesture on Max now. Anyway, yeah, so I went and lived in Berlin for about 2 years, and I was singing across Germany and throughout Europe. And that was actually as I was discovering my body's limitations. I had always sort of imagined that I was quote unquote the healthy one in my circles. I that was an identity marker for me. But I had already been experiencing some symptoms of my genetic disability at that time, but I always sort of I just dismissed them. I said, "Oh, my body's just a little weird," right? But while I was trying to build this career in Germany, and that career requires a lot of, personal hustle, and really sort of takes belief in that sort of hustle culture, and takes and not just belief, but the ability to push yourself really, really hard to do. My body just wasn't able to keep up, really. That was where I really sort of noticed, oh, my body is not actually doing what I am demanding of it. And at the time I was in my mid 20s, mid to late 20s, I really should have had my body been healthy. And I remember like episodes where I was just lying on my kitchen floor because I'm unable to get up, and feeling really ill, and not actually noticing that I had then caught something else, because my baseline had been to feel so ill. I had some real health struggles there, and it really threw into sharp relief. Oh, this may not be a thing that I can do. I may not be able to uh sustain this career in the way that I have been told is required for an opera singer. Because a lot of the messaging, at least in the places that I spent some time in the operatic world, sort of tell you, again, maybe not in so many words, but tell you maybe unconsciously, that the only valid way to have an operatic career is to do this step, and then this step, and then this step, and then this step, and then ta-da, if you do those accurately or correctly enough, you will pop out a success. And that's, first of all, that's not how anything works. No. But just attempting to follow those steps was just something my body couldn't do. And the messaging that said that if you don't do that, or if you don't succeed at that, it's because you are less than in some capacity. You may be like less than as an artist. That was wrong and backwards, because I was finding the beginnings of some success in Germany. And I knew I had something to share with the world, and that I was that I really wanted to, but my body couldn't take it. I wasn't able to, pack up my entire life and stick it in a a suitcase and take that suitcase over cobbled streets to go from one audition to the next. Um, I wasn't able to sleep on long haul buses. I wasn't able to, um, you know, keep up in any real way. And I made the, at the time, very sort of painful decision to let it go. And you grieve the life that, of course, that you've imagined for yourself. You grieve the loss of that previous dream. But in the end, uh, most grief is something that you are able to move with and eventually, hopefully, through. And I was able to discover a version of an operatic and artistic and performance career that was more modular and that suits my dynamic disability a little better. And so I've become freelance here in Canada, which, sure, maybe there is less of an operatic culture here in Canada than there is in Germany. But yeah, I've been truly privileged to be able to create something out of all of out of my love for storytelling in the sort of performing arts spaces. And in so doing, discovered that there was never anything wrong with that idea in the first place.
But as a storyteller, you also did something very, very good, is to create content. You have a YouTube channel where you
Yes.
post a lot of videos where you talk about what it is to be a disabled singer, what it is to be an opera singer. Is opera boring? Things like that.
It's true. As part of that sort of the process of discovering my new self as a disabled artist, as opposed to just, the random artist next door that I had thought I was when I began my career, I ran up against so many spaces where there was not even just misinformation about how disability might work in the operatic world, but a lack of information at all. That to be disabled in opera is often to feel very isolated, as though you're the only one, when of course we're not. The disabled artists have always been here in the operatic world and will continue to be here. And the more that we can, as an operatic sector, embrace that and acknowledge that and move forward with access in mind, I think that's how you not only future-proof opera, but you can create um, a space where the operatic artist feels less isolated, and where people coming into opera know that there may be space for them in the end. So I felt like it was really important to start talking about it, because I am so lucky as to be able to talk about it. Because again, um, there is such a lack of uh, an atmosphere within opera that even acknowledges that disabled opera artists could exist, which of course, again, of course we exist. But yeah, I felt like it was really important because um, I'm very, because I'm so lucky as to have been able to build an accessible operatic career for me, whereas so many other artists I know whose work is phenomenal, whose voices would have been so valuable to the operatic world, ended up having to leave it due to inaccessibility. Um, and I feel like it's such an immense privilege that I have within the operatic world to be able to build a career that I had to use it, because I'm one of the very few operatic artists out there right now who are able to be out about disability, because so many people are really sort of in the closet about it. And I use that analogy very consciously, because you really do, if like I'm a queer disabled opera singer, I, you know, coming out as as queer as one coming out process, and you have to come out again as disabled, because there's so much pressure in in the operatic world to, like, quote unquote appear healthy, that people dealing with health issues, people living with dynamic disabilities or disability writ large often feel like they can't speak about it at all. So I as soon as I realized what I sort of had in my life, that I had this sort of beautiful space that was accessible, that was um, a, a stable way for me to have an operatic career, I felt like I had to share it. It feels like my duty. And of course, you get to be, you know, YouTube and Instagram, you get to be silly too. You know, it's always a bonus.
That's
I
what
do.
I was going to say. It's like it's not only interesting content, it's funny content, it's touching content. So I really recommend everybody to go and have a look at your YouTube channel, because there are some important questions too. And I love one of my favorite videos. I mean, I love them all, but I love the video where you are talking with Jacqueline Coe, because you're talking about so many different aspects of um, teaching and learning and being an artist with a disability. And one of the things that I noted, because I really liked it, is when you were talking about teaching and learning as a teacher and as a student, and you said if you have a teacher who is who is not willing to give you the space that you need, then you have the wrong teacher. Find another teacher. It's not your fault. It's not, but find another teacher. Find someone who will respect that space. And then
Exactly.
Jacqueline Coe said, if you are a singer and have students with disability, then be prepared to be creative. And I 100% agree. It's so important. And it's great to hear that in
It's so
that.
true. I mean, one of the things that we end up that we think about a lot, as a company too, through Mariposa, is that we think about how access means different things for different people. That there is no one way to be accessible, because because people's needs are all different, and yet and those needs are basic, and yet are treated like luxuries, and they're not. Creating space for everyone means creating space for everyone, and it is okay to not have thought of this type of thing before. They're like we're always learning, we're always working to make spaces more accessible for more people. And then there will be the next person who comes in and you go, oh right, oh, I didn't think about that, maybe I can add that into my practice of making the arts more accessible for my students, in this way in the future. And then, you know, maybe a year later you'll have someone who needs the opposite thing, and they might be a little bit they might bump up against each other, they may be even opposing needs. But creativity is really required, not just to be a creative person, not just to be an artist, but to help new people share in art, to find new ways to bring people into the art world, to make it accessible. There's no recipe. It's not like baking a cake where you throw in this amount of accessibility in this way and this amount of accessibility in that way, and you suddenly bake it all up and you're done making it accessible. That's not how accessibility works. We get we I it's an immense privilege to be able to keep working on it, to keep working on finding a new way to be creative with your students and with your, or even with your rehearsal times, rehearsal space. Uh, that's the beauty of inclusion.
Yeah, in academic, we call it crib time.
Yes. Oh yeah. I recently posted a post on Instagram, because I do quite a bit of this work on Instagram too, because making a YouTube video takes a lot of time, and when I have a lot of work going on, it just take it'll take a while for my next video to come out. Um, but I was posting a video on Instagrams or a post on Instagram saying, hey, for all my disabled artist friends, um, anonymously or not, let me know what you find is the biggest barrier to you to entry into the artistic spaces that you want to live in. And I got quite a few responses from lots and lots of people, and lots of ways. But every single one, in one way or another, boiled down to crib time. Every single one. And that was not just in the operatic world. That was in, you know, classical music, that was in visual arts too, that was in dance. In one way or another, every person's who responded had a barrier to entry related to time allotted to do things, related to time expected to be in space with other people, or being in rehearsal, or even just being perceived. It always boiled down to that. And that's one of the things that I find organizations and or like larger administrations and like larger um, people in positions of power within the arts world might be less likely to think about when it comes to access. But fundamentally, it's a thing that seems to affect us all.
So how do you deal with your own trip time in your activities?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I put everything in my schedule, and if it's not in my schedule, it doesn't exist. Just doesn't happen. I have to plan my season very, very carefully. I have to plan how I teach and when I teach very, very carefully. Like, for example, if it's happening before 11 a.m. and I have any other show that I'm doing, I can't do it. I can't do it. If I attempt to get out of bed for that, my body will not do it. I will be horizontal. I don't get a say. So I do a lot of balancing of like, okay, if my rehearsals for this show are on this day, how much time do I have between the end of that, and me getting home, and me winding down, and my being able to function the next day. And it doesn't always work out, because a dynamic disability is a dynamic disability. It's not math. You don't input this amount of scheduling and get out this amount of energy. Sometimes you stand up in the morning and your body says, or not, and you go back to bed. But a lot of very careful planning, a lot of breaks, certainly more than a lot of other companies would have put in, and really being again in the very sort of lucky position to be able to talk with the people that I'm making this collaborative art with and say, these are the things that I can't do. This is where my boundary is. This is where my capacity level currently is. So like right now, I'm doing a whole bunch of shows at once, which is like, it's a lot. It's frankly too much, but I'm working on it. But I'm also in a position where I'm stage directing all of them, because that's another thing that I do, because that's my very sort of dynamic career. And when you get to be a stage director in a show, you get to set your rehearsal schedule. So I set my rehearsal schedule very thoughtfully in a way that will work for me. So they're spread out. So they're the rehearsals are not too long. Rehearsals come with big breaks built in that, like, yes, there are equity required breaks, but ones that I know will make it doable for me, as well as, for anyone else who might need the same in the cast. In the cast and crew. Yeah, I do a lot of directing so that I can make my own schedule, really. And then when I am performing, well, if I need extra time, extra space, I set that out right away. And if that company or those people don't want to work with me because of it, well, frankly, as I've become wont to say recently, that's a them problem and not a me problem. It's their loss, right? And then if someone were to say, actually, we don't want to work with you because we think that that's too much or whatever, well, that's a good thing for me to know too, because I wouldn't want to work with a company that felt that way. And like, I've been very lucky that I haven't really had that experience here in Canada since I've come back, for sure. And I think, again, partially due to Mariposa's existence here in our local artistic community, it's been doing a lot of good and changing people's perceptions about what is quote unquote diva behavior and what is, advocating for your basic access. So yeah, I've been very lucky. But it's mostly just, a lot of very careful scheduling, and then knowing when is my, like, how long is it between now and the day and the time that I will collapse? Because yeah, in the summer when all the shows are done, I'm horizontal, and that's part of the plan. And then I emerge again the next season.
And what are your upcoming shows?
Ooh, gosh. Well, I have quite a few. I'm directing 3, which is a lot. It might be a little too much, but I love them all. My first show that's coming up is a production of Gilbert and Sullivan's Pirates of Penzance that I'm directing at the North Shore Light Opera Society. It will be running from May 16th to 26th at the Presentation House Theater in North Van. It's inspired by Our Flag Means Death, which was a sort of queer phenomenon of a show about pirates. And I'm very, very excited that we get to do an extra queer version of Pirates of Penzance. It's been a real joy to create so far. I'm very excited for people to see it. So yeah, if any Taika Waititi fans out there really also like Gilbert and Sullivan, well, have we ever got the show for you? The next show I'm doing after that is I'm doing Menotti's Old Maid and the Thief with Heroic Opera, June 1st and 2nd at the Annex Theater. That one's really exciting for me because it's my first show where I get to use my mobility aid on stage in a full-length opera, which is huge for me. I am so excited to get to be the person on stage using a mobility aid in an opera that I never saw when I was watching and consuming opera growing up. It's an immense privilege. I'm getting fitted for my period appropriate mobility aid soon in one of our next rehearsals, because of course mobility aids are period appropriate for any period in which an opera can be set. And there's no reason to say, oh, well, you can't use that because that, doesn't go with what the 19th century aesthetic of X opera or Y opera. Well, people needed mobility aids for as long as there have been people. So anyway, bit of a tangent. I just get very, very excited about being that person up on stage with a mobility aid.
That's very good.
In a period piece. Yeah, I'm so excited. And then I am directing Hansel and Gretel with Crescendo Operatic Society at the Surrey Annex Theater from June 21st to 23rd. The Crescendo Operatic Society is an educational space, sort of showing people, teaching people how, from both inside and out, so from the perspective of the singer and the perspective of the audience, to love opera. So a lot of the people who are singing there are new to opera, and when they first walked in were really scared about the idea and are now really embracing doing something scary and wonderful. Yeah, all of those operas, we rehearse them all masked because, again, I really believe in that as an access measure. While all performances end up being unmasked, each singer will be testing repeatedly and starting testing repeatedly long before the masks come off, to try to make it as safe as possible for all of us. We also rehearse with high quality air filters going on. Same reason. And all 3 operas are in English, and Hansel and Gretel will come, even though it is in English, it will also come with English subtitles. So yeah, I'm really excited. I think those are all, I mean, as I said, not everything, not every production can be like quote unquote perfect in terms of accessibility measures, but if we can start normalizing some of that stuff, that is a huge and important change in the operatic world, and I'm really excited to be a part of it.
That's great. And I will post all that information on the RCB's website
I am
so
so
that we can,
excited.
yeah, me too.
Yeah. It's yeah. Ugh. I could talk about those shows all day. I'm just so excited about making more accessible art for people. So I know we'll have to end eventually.
I have one last question for you.
Sure.
And it's about inspirations, not in the sense of inspiration porn, right?
Right.
Like we have that a lot of conversations about that in the disability and arts community and disability community at large. But maybe you can think of an artist that kind of inspired you or guided you, or
For sure.
someone who is in the community and is important to you. Who would that be?
Oh yeah, for sure. And like as in the same video that you were referencing earlier, Jackie and I talked about this too, about, like disabled people aren't inspirational for existing, but disabled people, like any person, are capable of doing inspirational things. It's just that, going out to get the mail in a disabled body is not inspirational. But I mean, I think it is 100% true to say that every single person that I have become dear friends with on the internet, and on the internet alone, through the work that I've done in content creation about disability in the arts, has been really precious to me. And like in like that entire community that has grown around conversations about disability in the arts in the advocacy spaces online, they're just like, those people are so um yeah, like the whole community is precious to me, and the individual people inspire me every day because they continue to make art that is joyfully disabled in the face of ableist artistic systems. And that, as I said, like that is an inspiring thing to do, because so much of those ableist structures and systems that block us, um, tell us to quit, tell us that your voice is not valuable, that your voice is not important, and to continue to make art in the face of um, that type of a barrier is that's what gets me out of bed in the morning to think about those. But so like, is it, yeah, it's true that those people, so many of whom, as I said, I've never met in real life, but with whom I speak online all the time about what they're doing and about how cool that is. That's really special to me. But at the same time, I really do only have one answer for this, and that's my forever partner in operatic crime, Jackie Ko. She and I started doing voice lessons together when we were in elementary school. We went to the same school, and became opera singers together kind of by accident. But she knew that she was disabled the entire time. And she knew that she was growing into a voice that was special, and that she wanted to be able to share in but the community, the operatic world, was just not accessible to her. So she went, well, I'm going to make my own company that is accessible to me. And as I said earlier, I sort of identified as the healthy one in that friendship for a really long time. Before I realized that, well, maybe not. But if she hadn't, been so really stubborn about knowing that she wanted to be able to present her art, the systems wouldn't have been in place for when I needed them. I genuinely don't think that my career would be the same or my artistic practice would be the same if Mariposa hadn't existed, and Mariposa wouldn't exist without her. So yeah, she's my forever bestie, and also like in some ways, yeah, like one of the driving forces behind the way my career currently looks. So that's the answer.
Thank you. Well,
And
thank
you
you
can
so
go
much.
follow her on Instagram as well. You
I
should
will
totally
put
do that.
information about her in the resource page that will go with your interview.
Good.
And
Yeah.
I encourage all people to follow and to have a look at all these resources, Instagram, the YouTube channel, Mariposa, your shows.
Thank you. Yes. I'm just really glad to be in a space to be able to make this type of more accessible art, and to be able to push for increasing access for disabled folks in these artistic spaces.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you
And
for
all the
letting me
best.
rant.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Thank you so much. And it's always a pleasure to talk about how we can expose our ideas or make the arts more accessible generally. So you're a great storyteller and activist in that. And I thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, all the best with all your projects,
Thank you
and
so much.
talk soon, maybe.
Yeah. Always happy to chat.
Okay, have a great one.
You too.
Bye.